She was ridiculed for her red hair. A cowboy said, "It matches the fire in my soul." Clara was born in a small town surrounded by hills and wide fields, the kind of town where everyone knew each other, and everyone had an opinion. From the moment she opened her eyes, it was clear she was different. Her hair was bright red like the sun at sunset, and it seemed to glow even in the dim light of their small house. Her mother would often smile at it and say, "Clara, your hair is like fire. It will carry your spirit wherever you go." But even though her mother loved it, the world outside didn't always see it that way. From the very first day of school, Clara felt the eyes of other children on her. Children who whispered and giggled when she walked by. They called her names she didn't even understand at first. "Redhead," they would say, sometimes with a laugh, sometimes with a mean edge. She tried to ignore it, tried to keep her head down, but the words always lingered in her mind. Every time she looked in the mirror, she saw her red hair and wondered why it had to make her feel so different. Clara's father worked long hours at the local mill, and her mother spent most of her time caring for her younger siblings. That meant Clara often had time alone. At first, she felt lonely, like no one could understand her. But slowly, she found ways to escape. She wandered in the fields behind their house, where the tall grass brushed against her hands and the wind danced through the trees. She would sit on a hill and watch the sun set, imagining herself somewhere far away, where no one laughed at her hair, where she could be free. Books became her companions. She read about brave girls and daring adventures, about women who were strong, clever, and unafraid. She imagined herself as one of them, a heroine in her own story, even if her classmates didn't see her that way. Reading gave her a kind of strength. It made her realize that being different didn't mean being weak. It meant having something unique, something special, that no one else could take away. Despite the teasing, Clara had a spark in her that no one could extinguish. She loved to paint. Her favorite thing was to capture the colors of the sky, the reds, oranges, and golds that matched her hair. In those moments when her brush touched the canvas and colors came alive, she felt powerful and free. The laughter and whispers of school didn't reach her there. In her little room with the light from the window falling on her paintings, she was safe. She was herself, but school was unavoidable. Every morning Clara had to face the world, and every morning she felt the weight of the stairs. The other children didn't understand why she laughed a little too loudly, or why she sometimes spoke her mind. To them, her fiery hair matched a fiery personality that they found strange. One day, during recess, a group of children surrounded her. "Hey, firehead," one boy said, and the others laughed. Clara's cheeks burned, but she didn't run. She clenched her fists and told herself not to cry, not to show them that their words hurt.
Even with all the teasing, Clara had friends, few but true.
There was Emma, who loved to read as much as Clara did, and Ben, who didn't care what anyone thought about hair color or appearance. They played together after school, climbed trees, and shared secrets under the shade of an old oak. With them, Clara felt safe and understood. Their laughter was a shield against the harsh words of others. Clara's parents noticed the struggle she faced. Her mother, gentle and wise, often reminded her, "People will not always understand you, Clara, but that doesn't mean you are wrong. Your hair, your fire, your spirit, these are your gifts. Never let anyone dim them." Her father, though quieter, showed his support in actions, helping her with her projects, attending school events, and cheering when she drew a picture or wrote a story. Their love became a source of quiet strength, a foundation on which Clara began to build confidence. Over the years, the teasing didn't completely stop. Children can be cruel in ways that leave deep marks. But Clara learned to cope. She discovered humor as a tool. When someone called her names, she would sometimes laugh with them or make a joke about it, taking the power away from their words. Other times she would simply walk away, holding her head high, telling herself that they didn't matter. Each small act of courage made her stronger. Clara also found other ways to shine. She had her natural talent for music, and her voice could carry across the fields when she sang. She played the piano and learned to accompany herself, creating songs full of emotion and energy. The music became her voice when words failed. It was her way of saying to the world, I am here, and I will not be silenced. One autumn afternoon, Clara wandered further than usual. She found a hidden stream winding through the trees. The sunlight reflected off the water, making it sparkle like tiny flames. She sat by the bank, feeling the cool water against her fingers, and thought about her life. She thought about the teasing, the loneliness, the moments of joy and discovery. She realized something important. Even if people laughed at her hair, even if the world sometimes felt harsh, she had a spirit that could not be broken. The fire in her hair was the same fire inside her heart. Her determination grew. She began to take pride in her red hair, even if she didn't always show it. She experimented with braids and ribbons, finding ways to make her hair beautiful on her own terms. When she walked to school, she tried to imagine the wind playing with her hair like a crown rather than a target. Slowly, the fear of ridicule started to lose its grip. Clara's teachers noticed her resilience as well. Thompson, her art teacher, was one of the first adults to truly encourage her. She would say, Clara, your hair is bright, but your ideas shine even brighter. Never hide your light. That encouragement meant more than words. For the first time, Clara felt that her uniqueness could be celebrated, not just tolerated. The turning point came during a school art show. Clara submitted a painting of a sunset with reds, oranges, and yellows blending into each other. She was nervous. What if someone laughed at it? What if they made fun of her again? When the day came, she stood by her painting, heart pounding. People stopped to look. Some whispered, but not mean words. This time it was admiration. The colors were beautiful, with strokes full of passion. For the first time, Clara realized that being different could be a gift. Her red hair, her fire, her passion, they were all part of what made her art and her spirit unforgettable. By the time Clara reached her teenage years, she had learned an important truth. The world might be unkind, but she had the power to choose how she reacted. She could let others' opinions shape her, or she could let her own fire guide her. And Clara chose the fire. She embraced her hair, her talents, and her passions. She laughed more freely, spoke more confidently, and began to dream bigger than ever before. Even though challenges remained, Clara had discovered the strength inside her. She had learned that ridicule was temporary, but self-respect and courage were lasting. Her red hair was no longer just something that made her stand out. It was a symbol of her spirit, a reminder that she could face the world with bravery, creativity, and heart. And as she walked home from school one chilly autumn evening, the wind catching her hair and turning it into a halo of red flames, Clara smiled. She knew that this was only the beginning of her journey. The fire inside her was alive, and no one could ever take that away. Clara had grown into a young woman, still with the same bright red hair that had made her stand out as a child. She was no longer the timid girl who flinched at whispers and laughter. Life had taught her lessons, some hard and some beautiful, and she had learned to carry herself with quiet confidence. She worked at a small general store in town, helping customers with a smile and a polite word, always attentive and kind. Yet even with her growing confidence, she sometimes caught herself hiding in the background, unsure if the world would ever fully accept her. The town she lived in was small, with dirt roads lined by wooden fences and wide fields stretching toward the horizon. On weekends, people from nearby farms would visit the store, bringing news, stories, and laughter. Clara enjoyed these moments, listening to tales of farm life, weather, and community gossip. She liked the rhythm of small-town life, the gentle predictability of it, and the chance to meet people from different walks of life. But deep down, she still craved something more: adventure, excitement, and the feeling that her fire could burn brighter than it had ever done. One sunny morning, a new face appeared in town. He was a tall man, rugged and strong, dressed in worn jeans, a plaid shirt, and a wide-brimmed hat that shaded his face. People whispered about him, curious about the newcomer. His boots kicked up dust as he walked down the main street, and there was a quiet confidence in his steps that made others take notice. Clara felt something stir inside her as she watched him enter the store. His presence was different, like a storm quietly approaching. He introduced himself as Ethan, a cowboy who had traveled from a distant ranch to sell supplies and check on some property in the area. There was a gentle kindness in his voice, but also a spark of wildness, like he belonged to the open fields and endless skies. When he looked at Clara, he paused for a moment. His eyes lingered on her red hair, and instead of a mocking glance or a judgmental frown, there was something in his expression that made Clara pause. "Your hair," he said quietly. "It reminds me of the fire in my soul." Clara blinked, taken aback. She had heard many comments about her hair over the years, but none like this. None that spoke to her, that made her feel seen instead of ridiculed. She felt heat rise to her cheeks, not from shame but from surprise and curiosity. There was something about this man that felt different. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't whispering. He wasn't trying to make her smaller. He was simply noticing her, and it felt comforting. Over the next few weeks, Ethan returned to the store several times. He bought supplies, told stories about his ranch, and slowly, a friendship began to form. Clara learned that he had lived among horses and wide-open plains all his life, and that he had a love for freedom and the natural world. He spoke of the land with reverence, of sunrises and sunsets, of the quiet beauty and simple work. Clara found herself sharing stories of her own childhood, of the teasing she had endured, and the dreams she had built from books and imagination. Ethan listened without judgment, his attention steady and kind. One day, Ethan invited Clara to visit his ranch. At first, she hesitated. She had never ventured far outside her town alone, and the idea of stepping into unknown territory made her nervous. But something in his calm, encouraging smile made her say yes. She wanted to see the world through his eyes, to feel the open fields and the wind that seemed to always follow him. The ride to the ranch was filled with conversation and laughter. Clara discovered that Ethan had a gentle humor, teasing her lightly but never cruelly. He had a way of making her forget the harsh words of her past, the ridicule that had once haunted her. As they rode along dusty paths and through meadows lined with wildflowers, Clara felt a sense of freedom she had never known. The wind tangled her red hair, and for the first time in years, she let herself laugh freely, feeling the sun warm her face and the open land beneath her feet. At the ranch, Clara met Ethan's world. Horses that neighed softly in their stalls, dogs that ran to greet her with wagging tails, and wide-open pastures stretching to the horizon. She helped feed the animals, learning the rhythm of farm life, the patience it required, and the quiet rewards it offered. She realized how much she loved the simplicity and honesty of it. No one judged her hair here. No one mocked her for being different. She was simply Clara, a young woman with fire in her soul, learning to live freely and fully. As the days passed, Clara and Ethan grew closer. They shared stories around the fire at night, watched stars stretch across the sky, and laughed at small mistakes and clumsy moments. Ethan encouraged her to try new things, riding a horse, helping with chores, even trying to rope a calf. Clara discovered a side of herself she had never known, strong, capable, and unafraid of challenge. She felt alive in a way that school and town life had never allowed. Her red hair no longer seemed like a target for ridicule. It was a symbol of her courage, of her willingness to step into the unknown. One evening, as they rested after a long day of work on the ranch, Ethan looked at Clara with a serious expression. "You know," he said, "most people would be afraid to stand out like you do. But your fire? It's rare. It's something worth protecting." Clara felt a warmth in her chest, a mix of gratitude and something deeper she hadn't felt before. She realized that for the first time, someone saw her as she truly was, not as the girl the world had made her feel she was. Clara began to notice changes within herself. She carried herself with more confidence, spoke more openly, and smiled without hesitation. She wore her hair proudly, letting it flow freely instead of hiding it. People in town began to notice the change too, though they didn't always understand it. She wasn't seeking approval anymore. She had found something more important: self-respect and joy in being herself. Ethan became a steady presence in her life, a source of encouragement and companionship. He admired her talents, her painting, her music, her keen mind, and often reminded her of her strength. "Clara," he would say, "the world doesn't always understand fire, but fire shapes the world." His words lingered in her mind, giving her courage to face challenges she had once avoided. One day a storm rolled in across the plains, heavy clouds darkening the sky. Clara watched the rain fall, feeling the raw power of nature all around her. She realized that life, like the storm, could be unpredictable, sometimes frightening, but also beautiful and necessary. She understood that she didn't need to shrink away from the storm. She could stand in it strong and unafraid. Her red hair, bright and untamed in the wind, felt like a banner of her resilience. By the end of that summer, Clara felt transformed. She had discovered a sense of freedom, courage, and self-worth that had been missing for so long. She had learned to embrace her uniqueness, to see it as a gift rather than a curse. And she had met someone who recognized that fire in her soul, someone who encouraged her to let it shine. As she rode back to town one afternoon with Ethan, the wind catching her hair and the sun painting it like flames, Clara felt a quiet joy settle in her heart. The past, the teasing, the loneliness, the doubts, no longer held power over her. She had found her place in the world, not by hiding who she was, but by embracing it fully. And in that moment, riding beside Ethan, Clara understood something profound. Sometimes, the world needed someone to see the fire in you before you could fully see it yourself. Ethan had done that for her, and she would never forget it. Her journey was just beginning, and she was ready to face whatever came next, with courage, pride, and the fire of her red hair lighting the way. Clara's life had changed in ways she never imagined. Since meeting Ethan, she had discovered a world beyond the small town she had always known. The open fields, the rhythm of ranch life, and the quiet strength of the people she met there had opened her eyes to a freedom she had only dreamed about as a child. But more than the new experiences, it was the connection with Ethan that transformed her. He saw her, not the girl who had been teased for her red hair, but the strong, passionate, and creative woman she was becoming. Every weekend, Clara found herself returning to the ranch. She learned the names of each horse, discovered the patterns of the stars at night, and learned the art of tending the land. Ethan showed her how to ride with confidence, how to care for animals, and how to face challenges with patience and courage. Each lesson, each shared moment strengthened her not just physically, but emotionally. She began to feel grounded, confident, and proud of who she was. Ethan, too, was patient and kind, never rushing her or judging her mistakes. When Clara struggled to rope a calf, he would laugh lightly and say, "You'll get it. Fire doesn't fear practice." His words made her laugh, and she realized that the fire in her hair was mirrored by the fire he recognized in her spirit. Slowly, Clara began to see herself through Ethan's eyes, not as someone strange or unusual, but as someone capable, passionate, and alive. The people in the town noticed the change as well. Clara walked taller, smiled brighter, and carried herself with a confidence that drew respect. Some still whispered about her hair, but she no longer felt the sting. She had learned that the opinions of others could not define her. Her fire was her own, and she would not let anyone extinguish it. One afternoon, Ethan asked Clara to join him on a longer ride across the hills. They rode side by side, the horses' hooves beating a steady rhythm on the dusty path. The wind tangled Clara's red hair, and she laughed, feeling the pure joy of the open land. She realized that these moments, simple, beautiful, free, were teaching her more than any lesson from school or town life ever could. As they stopped on a hilltop to rest, Ethan looked at her thoughtfully. "Clara," he said, "most people hide their fire because they're afraid of being burned, but not you. You let it shine. That's something rare, something worth keeping." Clara felt her heart swell. She had spent so many years hiding, fearing ridicule and rejection. Now, with Ethan, she felt safe to be fully herself. She realized that her fire, her red hair, her spirit, her courage was not a burden, but a gift. Their friendship deepened into something more, though neither rushed to name it. They shared quiet evenings by the fire, talking about dreams and fears, laughter and memories. Ethan spoke of his life on the ranch, of the hardships and joys, of the people he loved, and the land he cherished. Clara shared her own stories, of childhood struggles, of books that had inspired her, and of the dreams she held in her heart. Each story, each shared moment, built trust and connection between them. Clara began to understand herself in ways she never had before. She realized that the ridicule of her childhood had not defined her. It had shaped her, but only as much as she allowed it. She learned to forgive herself for the times she had doubted herself, and to embrace the strength she had always carried inside. Her red hair was no longer a target for laughter. It was a symbol of her courage, creativity, and resilience. Ethan encouraged her passions. He admired her paintings, often standing quietly in the studio as she worked, watching the colors come alive under her brush. "Your fire shows in every stroke," he would say. "Don't hide it." Music, too, became a source of joy. Clara sang while working on the ranch, her voice carrying across the fields. Animals seemed to pause and listen, and even the wind seemed to carry her notes farther than she could imagine. With Ethan's encouragement, she began to see her talents as strengths, not just hobbies. There were challenges, of course. Life on the ranch was not always easy. Storms would sweep across the plains, horses would fall ill, and days were long and exhausting. Clara faced moments of doubt and fatigue, but each challenge was met with patience, learning, and resilience. Ethan was always by her side, lending strength, guidance, and encouragement. Clara began to see that facing hardships did not make her weak, it made her stronger. Her fire was not only bright, it was enduring. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in reds, oranges, and golds, Clara and Ethan sat on a fence overlooking the fields. "Clara," Ethan said softly, "you've grown so much. You've learned to embrace who you are, and that's more powerful than anything else. Most people never find that courage." Clara smiled, feeling a warmth she had never known. She realized that Ethan had helped her see herself as she truly was, brave, passionate, and full of life. Clara also noticed changes in how others treated her. People in town were kinder, more respectful. Children who had once teased her now looked at her with admiration or curiosity. Teachers and neighbors complimented her talents and her confidence. Clara understood that while the world might still judge, she had the power to choose how to respond. She could let opinions define her, or she could let her fire shine. Unafraid, she chose the latter. Her bond with Ethan grew stronger with each passing day. They shared small gestures, a hand on the shoulder, a shared laugh, a quiet conversation under the stars, that built a deep sense of trust and understanding. Ethan never pressured her. He simply admired her for who she was, fire and all. And Clara, in turn, began to recognize a quiet courage in him, a steadfastness and kindness that matched the strength she had found in herself. The ranch became a place of transformation for Clara. She learned to care for the animals with patience, to ride with confidence, to work the land with respect. She discovered that hard work could be rewarding, that challenges could teach lessons, and that kindness and courage were powerful tools in life. Most importantly, she learned that her uniqueness, her fiery hair, her passionate spirit, her creativity, was not something to hide. It was something to embrace, celebrate, and protect. Clara also began to dream bigger. She thought about ways to combine her passions, painting, music, and love for the land, into something meaningful. Perhaps an art exhibit that captured the beauty of the countryside, or a music project that celebrated the life of the ranch. The possibilities excited her, and Ethan encouraged her to pursue them. "Your fire is contagious," he said. "Let it spread." There were quiet moments of reflection, too. Clara thought about the teasing she had endured as a child, the times she had felt small and invisible. She realized that those experiences had taught her empathy, patience, and resilience. They had shown her the value of kindness and the importance of seeing the good in people. And now, standing strong beside Ethan, she felt gratitude for every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt. They had shaped her into the woman she had become. One morning, as they worked together feeding the horses, Clara noticed a small foal struggling to stand. She knelt beside it, gently guiding it to its feet, feeling the strength and determination of the tiny creature. It reminded her of herself, once small, fragile, and teased, but now strong, capable and ready to face the world. Ethan watched her with admiration. "You have a way of seeing what's possible," he said. "You see fire where others see weakness." Clara smiled, understanding that the fire inside her was not just for herself. It could inspire and nurture others as well. By the end of the season, Clara had changed in ways that were visible and invisible. Her red hair flowed freely, bright and untamed. Her spirit was bold, unafraid of judgment or ridicule. She moved with confidence, laughed with joy, and embraced every moment with gratitude and passion. And alongside her, Ethan remained a steady presence, a mirror of her fire, a witness to her growth, and a friend who saw her as she truly was. Clara realized that life was not about hiding from challenges or criticism. It was about embracing her strengths, learning from hardships, and finding people who encouraged her to shine. Ethan had shown her that fire could be beautiful, powerful, and enduring, and Clara in turn had learned to trust herself, to honor her passions, and to celebrate her uniqueness. As they rode back to town one golden evening, the wind catching her hair and painting it like flames in the sunset, Clara felt a deep sense of peace. She had faced ridicule, doubt, and fear, and yet here she was, stronger, wiser, and more alive than ever. She knew that the journey was far from over, but she also knew that she had the courage to face whatever came next. Her fire was not only alive, it was unstoppable. Clara's life had changed in ways she had never imagined. The timid, self-conscious girl who had once hid her fiery hair beneath ribbons and braids was now a young woman who carried herself with confidence, strength, and pride. Her time at the ranch with Ethan had shown her that the fire inside her was not something to hide, but something to nurture and celebrate. She had learned that her uniqueness was her greatest gift, and she was determined to share it with the world. The opportunity came sooner than she expected. The town announced its annual festival, a celebration of community, art, and talent. People from neighboring towns would come to display their skills, their crafts, and their creativity. Clara's friends encouraged her to participate, but for the first time in her life, she felt nervous in a different way. This was not about ridicule or judgment. It was about showing the world the person she had become. She wanted to step into the light, to embrace her fire fully, and to do it without fear. Clara spent weeks preparing. She chose to create a series of paintings inspired by the fields, the hills, and the sunset she had come to love. Each painting reflected a piece of her journey, her struggles, her resilience, her dreams, and her passions. She worked late into the nights, often accompanied by the soft hum of music and the gentle encouragement of Ethan. "Let your fire guide you," he would say. "Don't worry about what others think. Show the world who you are." When the day of the festival arrived, Clara felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The town square was filled with people, colorful stalls, and a sense of celebration. Children ran about with balloons, families laughed together, and musicians played cheerful tunes. Clara carefully arranged her paintings, each one capturing the vibrancy and emotion she had poured into it. She stepped back to look at them, taking a deep breath. This was her moment. As people began to walk past her display, Clara noticed their reactions. Some stopped, admiring the colors and the skill. Others leaned in, curious about the story behind each piece. Clara answered questions with confidence, sharing the inspiration behind her work. She spoke of the sunsets, the fields, the animals, and the experiences at the ranch that had shaped her. With every word she felt lighter, freer, and more certain that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Ethan watched from nearby, a proud smile on his face. He had seen Clara grow from a shy, self-conscious girl into a confident, passionate woman. He knew how much courage it took for her to stand here, exposing her heart through her art. When she caught his gaze, she felt a surge of reassurance. His presence was a reminder that she had someone who believed in her, someone who had seen her fire from the beginning. Throughout the day, people came and went, and Clara's display drew more attention than she could have imagined. Children pointed excitedly at the vibrant colors, and adults complimented the detail and emotion in each painting. Some visitors even asked if they could purchase her work. Clara felt a sense of validation that had nothing to do with money or fame. It was the recognition that her fire, her uniqueness, and her passion mattered. It had always mattered, even when others had tried to make her feel small. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the festival, Clara noticed a group of children lingering near her display. One little girl looked at her with wide eyes and said, "I wish I had hair like yours. It's so bright and beautiful." Clara felt her heart swell. She knelt down to the girl's level and smiled. "Thank you," she said gently. "Remember, it's not just the color of your hair that's important. It's the fire inside you. That's what makes you shine." The girl's face lit up, and Clara realized that her journey was about more than herself. Her fire could inspire others, just as Ethan's belief had inspired her. By the end of the festival, Clara's paintings had drawn admiration from everyone, including the mayor, who asked if she would consider displaying them in the town hall. Clara agreed, feeling proud and accomplished. She had faced the world, shared her talents, and embraced her uniqueness without hesitation. Her red hair, once a source of ridicule, was now a symbol of the courage and passion that guided her every step. The next morning, Clara returned to the ranch with Ethan. The sun was rising, painting the fields in shades of gold and red. They rode side by side, the wind tangling her hair and lifting her spirits. Ethan looked at her with admiration and said, "You did it, Clara. You showed the world your fire, and they saw it. You saw it too, didn't you?" Clara smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "I did," she replied. "I finally see it." Life continued to flourish for Clara. She began to take on new projects, blending her love for painting and music into events that celebrated the beauty of the countryside and the spirit of the community. She organized small gatherings where people could share their talents, bringing together the town and neighboring areas. Her confidence grew, not just in her abilities, but in her role as someone who could inspire and uplift others. Ethan remained a constant presence, supporting her in every endeavor. They shared long rides across the hills, quiet evenings by the fire, and conversations that lasted late into the night. Their bond had grown stronger, built on mutual respect, admiration, and a deep understanding of each other's strengths and vulnerabilities. Clara realized that love, like fire, required care, attention, and trust. She felt grateful for his presence in her life, knowing that he had helped her see herself in ways she never could have alone. One crisp autumn afternoon, Clara sat on a hill overlooking the fields, reflecting on her journey. She thought about the years of teasing and doubt, the moments of loneliness, and the small victories that had shaped her. She remembered the little girl who had once felt ashamed of her hair, hiding it from the world. Now she laughed freely, painted boldly, and lived with a passion that inspired others. The fire that had always been inside her had finally been recognized, nurtured, and embraced. Clara understood that her story was not just about overcoming ridicule. It was about embracing individuality, finding strength in vulnerability, and sharing her gifts with the world. She realized that everyone had a fire inside them, and that it was courage, kindness, and persistence that allowed that fire to shine. She felt a deep sense of purpose, knowing that her journey could encourage others to embrace their uniqueness and pursue their dreams without fear. The community, too, had grown to recognize Clara's spirit. People who had once whispered or judged now admired her courage, talent, and kindness. She became a role model for children and adults alike, someone who demonstrated that challenges could be overcome, that differences could be celebrated, and that passion and determination could shape a meaningful life. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan and Clara stood together, watching the sky turn shades of red and gold. Ethan gently took her hand and said, "Clara, your fire has always been bright. I'm glad you finally see it too, and I hope you never let anyone make you doubt it again." Clara smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. "I won't," she replied. "This fire, it's mine, and I'll carry it with me wherever I go." As they rode back to town, the wind catching Clara's hair and the fields glowing in the sunset, she felt a sense of completion. Her journey, from the ridiculed girl hiding behind her hair to the confident, passionate woman she had become, was a testament to resilience, courage, and self-belief. She had faced the world, embraced her uniqueness, and inspired others along the way. Her red hair was no longer just a color. It was a symbol of everything she had overcome, and everything she had yet to achieve. Clara knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but she also knew that she had the strength, wisdom, and fire to face them. She understood that her worth was not defined by others' opinions, but by her own courage and determination. She had learned to trust herself, to nurture her passions, and to embrace every part of her identity with pride and joy. In the quiet moments when she looked at the sunset, rode across the hills, or painted in her studio, Clara felt a deep connection to the fire inside her.
It was a fire that had survived ridicule, loneliness, and doubt.
It was a fire that had been nurtured by love, friendship, and courage. And it was a fire that would continue to burn brightly, lighting her path and inspiring everyone around her. And so Clara's story came full circle. The girl who had once been ridiculed for her red hair had grown into a woman who embraced it, celebrated it, and shared her fire with the world. She had learned that true strength came not from hiding, but from shining. Her journey was a reminder that being different was not a weakness, but a gift. And as she rode beside Ethan, the wind lifting her hair like flames in the sunset, Clara knew that she had found her place in the world, strong, free, and unafraid to let her fire shine.